Welcome to the Turing Test Deep Dive. Today we're exploring what really goes on inside ChatGPT's brain while we chat. It's like peeking into a digital mind, right?
Absolutely, it's fascinating stuff. So many layers. And these layers are, essentially a giant spreadsheet of numbers.
Exactly. Now imagine these parameters, talking about, say, 1.8 trillion of them in GPT-4o, are like adjustable knobs that fine-tune the model's guesses with insane precision. It's wild.
Right, and the knobs, they're constantly getting twisted during training to, you know, improve its word predictions by identifying relationships between words.
Spot on. It's a statistical map of language that, if you think about it, is both beautiful and, well, a little eerie. Like, it seems to understand us, even though it's just crunching massive numbers.
Yeah, it really sparks the question. Does having more parameters equal becoming smarter? Some say, go big or go home, while others argue efficiency might trump size.
Exactly, and honestly, that debate is at the heart of current research. On one side, scaling laws from DeepMind and Anthropic show performance improves predictably with more data, compute, and parameters. But then you have models like Phi-3 that, despite being under 15 billion parameters, still deliver surprisingly strong reasoning.
Right, and that leads us to really ask, is clever architecture or better data preparation more important than raw scale?
Yes, that's the big conundrum. It's kind of like choosing between a massive clunky tool and a sleek, finely honed instrument.
And while we're on the subject of training, let's talk about what actually happens during that phase. The model is fed almost the entire public internet. Books, code, forums, everything.
Right, it predicts missing words, gets a score, tweaks those parameters, and repeats trillions of times using GPU clusters that are, well, practically warehouse-sized.
Wow, that's mind-boggling. But it's not all mechanical, right? There's that human touch as well.
Exactly. Once the heavy pre-training wraps up, there's a critical step known as reinforcement learning from human feedback, or RLHF. People actually rank the outputs, helping the model learn which answers are more preferable and safe.
Yep, and that stage really ramps up the model's helpfulness, while also ensuring its safety in practical applications.
True, but it's also a reminder of the huge energy demand. I mean, GPT-4o, with its enormous scale, consumed enough electricity to power, get this, 180,000 US homes for a month.
Wow, that's intense. Right, and that huge energy consumption definitely pushes the field towards greener approaches, like those sparsely activated models that only fire up the neurons they really need.
Exactly. Efficiency is becoming a hot topic. Now think about trust. Can we truly rely on what these models say? Even with RLHF, they still hallucinate, slip into bias, or even regurgitate training data accidentally?
Absolutely. Trust is a big deal. If a medical chatbot, for instance, hallucinates a dosage, the real-world consequences could be dangerous.
Right. Bias isn't just a theoretical problem. It's a real-world usability issue. That's why there's growing pressure, like with regulatory measures from the EU's AI Act, to enforce data provenance and proper testing on high-risk systems.
I sometimes wonder if relying solely on these adjustments is enough to mitigate the risks. I mean, some argue that transparency is the way forward.
Totally. And that brings us to interpretability. Researchers are now mapping out feature paths. Basically, clusters of neurons that light up for concepts, like identifying if something is a cat, or even detecting sarcasm.
Yeah, and with Anthropic's recent demo mapping 500 million parameters into modules that can distinguish things like code syntax and even jokes, we're starting to see promises of debugging these massive systems.
Exactly. Full transparency might be a far-off dream, but each new tool peels back another layer of the mystery, even if skeptics claim we're just scratching the math mountain.
Right, and look, sometimes I question whether these insights will ever really allow us to fully control unintended behaviors. There's a tension between understanding and the sheer complexity of these models.
I get that. It's like trying to map every twist and turn in an endless maze. Helpful, sure, but you might never see the exit.
Now, shifting gears a bit, what about the future? Where are these LLMs headed next? There's talk of multimodal models that mix text with images, audio, and video.
Absolutely. GPT-4o, for instance, already listens and talks in real time. It's like having a conversation with a digital companion that can see and hear. And then there's the realm of agents, models that plan, browse, and actually take action.
Yep, that's exciting. And let's not forget open models. With releases like Meta's Llama 4 under a permissive license, the innovation from the community has exploded.
Exactly. And that's a big frontier. But here's a twist. There's also the wild card of regulation. The U.S. Senate's bipartisan framework proposes licensing for models above a certain compute threshold, which could really shape the future of AI development.
Right. And while some fear that it might entrench the incumbents, others see it as essential to ensure accountability in high-stakes applications.
And that leads to our big recap. First, does bigger equal better? Second, how do these models actually learn from such massive data sets? Third, can we trust them given their occasional hallucinations? Fourth, will we ever truly understand how they work? And finally, what new capabilities lie on the horizon? Will it be multimodal or intelligent agents or something completely unexpected?
Absolutely. That's the crux of it all. Each question points to both the power and the pitfalls of these advanced systems.
Yeah, and it really drives home that while these models perform like they've got a brain, they're actually just advanced pattern matching machines.
Right. And that's both their superpower and their Achilles heel, because they can simulate understanding without ever truly thinking, which is a double-edged sword.
Exactly. It's like having the world's most advanced autocomplete that's amazing for efficiency, but sometimes might, make a surprising mistake.
I do sometimes challenge that point, though. Couldn't one argue that even as advanced autocompletes, they approach a form of intelligence? Or are we drawing too sharp a line between mimicking behavior and genuine thought?
That's a fair critique. It's a nuanced difference. While the system mimics intelligence through pattern recognition, it's still a far cry from human-like reasoning.
Yeah, exactly. It's like comparing an intricate puzzle that fits together perfectly every time to the unpredictable creativity of the human mind.
Right? And that unpredictability is what makes the design both thrilling and a bit dangerous. But it also opens up a ton of exciting avenues for innovation, especially with multimodal applications and open source models.
Indeed, for sure. So whether you're deep in code or just curious about the magic behind your next email or dad joke, there's so much to unpack about these digital brains.
Absolutely. And as we continue exploring, it's crucial to stay critical and curious, always mindful that while these models are dazzling in their capabilities, they come with intricate challenges that we must navigate carefully.
Well said. There's a lot on the horizon, and our understanding will keep evolving alongside the technology.
And that wraps up our deep dive today. Thanks for joining in as we cracked open the black box of ChatGPT's brain.
Yep, it's been a mind-bending journey. Looking forward to the next discussion on where these digital minds will take us next.